So every small town seems to have a couple of those individuals that own that one business or they run that one company. And you often wonder, like, who are they and how did they get to where they are and why did they choose to do it and live here? My first guest today is exactly one of those interesting characters and just so happens to be my only brother. So this is Luke Riemer. So thanks a lot for being here.
You're welcome. Good to hear, Bradley.
Yeah. Big brother. He's one of the only people that you'll hear call me Bradley between him and my mother-in-law, Pam. So obviously because he's family, we live in the same town. We hang out a bunch. We're good friends. I happen to know a lot about him. But for you people that don't know him, Luke actually started a company called Akribis Leather. They make high-end custom leather tool belts, and they ship them all over the world for a variety of different trades. He's got a huge Instagram following, which has helped grow the business. And yeah, so why don't, Luke, you just give us a little bit of
Sure.
bit of background and who you are, where you came from, and why you live in small town Summerland.
So go way back. As kids, we lived in a town called Headley, 350 people. I have always said it's like in the South Okanagan, but it's not. It's actually in the Smilkameen Valley.
Yeah.
And my wife always says that you did not grow up in the Okanagan, but it's only like less than an hour from here.
Yeah.
But we lived at the base of a mountain, and there's ruins of a mine right behind our trailer that we lived in. So I spent my childhood, the two of us, playing in the ruins of the mine, and building forts, climbing in the mountain, and outside all the time, catching lizards and snakes and being in the outdoors. And Dad was very outdoorsy. So he did, he was always into mountaineering stuff and backpacking and camping. So that was kind of our, my early childhood was just being outside. And I loved building stuff. Dad was handy. So he, redid the deck and siding and built rock walls. And I was just kind of on his heels all the time for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, at that time, from the time I was, 5 to 12, which is weird to think I was that young because I have still vivid memories of those times. So we lived there in Headley with a small town and like 2 kids my age in town. And one of them was a farm boy, lived outside town that hung out the most for a few years. But for the most part, pretty isolated, secluded, which is kind of my personality as an introvert. So being on my own was just fine. Then we moved out to the Gulf Islands between Vancouver Island and the mainland. And we were on an island called TELUS Island. Again, similar population, but no town center, just houses spread all over the island. And so that was a whole new environment to explore. And I mean, you and I spent tons of time in the first couple of years down at the beach in low tide, flipping over rocks and catching crabs and fishing. And I remember there being one summer in particular where it was like abnormally hot, no rain, and something in the water with the warmth of it, there was like way more seaweed, algae. Remember there's like that green like mats of that stuff. It looked like moss all over the water. But it was so warm and we would go swimming like 3 times a day. It was hot and dry. It was awesome. That was like my best memory of a summer.
I agree. That was probably the best summer. Like we would swim in the ocean and at nighttime there was the phosphorescence. You would jump into it. If you don't know what phosphorescence is, it's like this, is it an algae?
Something like that. We don't really know.
I don't know.
It glows.
It glows. Bluish green, whatever. You dive into that water at nighttime and it looks like there's a legit angel on fire swimming under
super
the
cool.
water. That was
that's great.
Quite a blast. But
and during those kind of teenage years, I started spending my summers working for a local custom home builder. And so kind of got into a little bit of trades work and just as a laborer, packing stuff around, and remember sanding doors and manually pounding on gang nail plates on posts. I remember was a really fun job with a big steel pole and a big steel plate in the bottom and slamming these gang nail plates in by hand. Stupid jobs. And really got into woodwork in school. So I did drafting and woodwork stuff and had an awesome wood shop teacher, Mr. Gabrant. And he ran his wood shop class like a first year apprenticeship. And I remember having to he'd have us writing tests on like the correct angle to hold a chisel at on a whetstone to sharpen it properly and all different kind of hand tool stuff and setting the teeth on a hand saw and all kinds of things that were like really, really proper. So most people think of wood shop, metalwork shop as kind of like these bird courses. Like you show up, you make some little trinket and you get an A. Whereas Mr. Gabrant was like, no, you got to do the work properly. And which a lot of people were annoyed by, but I loved it. Like I thrived in that class, and I'd be there after school and making stuff, and
Totally.
loved that. So working with my hands, doing more cabinetry, furniture stuff in his class, doing construction stuff in the summers. That was kind of my entry into kind of pursuing woodwork. Really enjoyed that. Later on, I got an opportunity actually from a family friend to go to Japan and built a house and a restaurant. I was kind of a laborer on that job. I think I was 18. Spent 2.5 months in Japan, built a couple of projects there, which is a really cool experience. Ended up moving out to Alberta to pursue music as a guitar player for a little while. Didn't last too long. Financial things went sideways with a friend in a car accident and taxes and all kinds of crap, and had to go back into construction. And then, kind of stepped back into a crew that I'd been working for, and we did kind of production framing. So apartments, 5-story wood frame apartments, and on a crew of like 10, 12 guys and banging up walls. And just really enjoyed that. I liked it. And it's hard work. But the sense of satisfaction at the end of the day and seeing what you've done and working as a team. And the guy that I worked for, they really prioritized working together versus a lot of companies. They'll have like you and the guy go over there, start in that corner. We'll work over here. We'll meet in the middle and we'll build our way. You build your way, and we'll see how it comes together. Versus the company that I worked for, it was like we all worked together chasing each other. Like a layout guy, a couple cut guys, 4 framers, and we would just chase each other around the site. So I got to kind of witness that kind of efficiency and production that could take place when there's good communication, a good system in place. And so starting to pick up like, oh, this is how this works. This is how you can put things together. And there's something about that is checks a box in my mind where I can see something executed well. And that there's systems in place, and this can be, efficiency can be optimized in different ways, and seeing the different variables that can be brought together to make things happen well. So I start thinking about, if I was an employer someday, how would I want to run my company? What attributes of the people that I'm working for would I really want to borrow and adopt myself? And what things do I want nothing to do with as well? I've always been one to try to learn hard lessons from other people's errors instead of having to make them myself. Even though I've made plenty of my own. There's a lot of things I'm like, oh, I saw how that didn't go well. I'm not going to do that. And then other things where you find yourself in the middle of a mess you've made, and you got to learn your lesson. So anyway, ended up spending a better part of 4 years in Edmonton. And then my folks actually moved from the island to the Okanagan. My dad took on work here, and kind of through family connections ended up being introduced to my wife, who was in this area and wanted to get out of Edmonton. Moved to the Okanagan to pursue her. We ended up getting married, and about a year later, I think I actually started my own company as Akribis Construction, and started that with a friend of mine. We did flooring for the first year, something I had some experience in. It was an easy way to join a company that needed installers. They did the bidding, got the jobs all set up, and then we were the installers. So we go in and get that done. So we were under their WCB, and they did the quoting. We were paid by the square foot. So a very kind of safe, easy way to get into running a business.
And let me just butt in there. Akribis. Tell me what is Akribis? Where's the word come from? Why that?
So when my friend Dustin and I were looking at naming the company, I didn't want to do what a lot of people do, which is, again, this is their jam. I didn't want to call it Luke and Dustin Construction or something. And we had people call it Two Studs Construction or something silly. I wanted something timeless that I wasn't directly connected to. And so I started thinking about like, what can we call it that is timeless and has meaning? And Dustin, my good friend, is he's quite a wordsmith, and he loves language. He's a bit of a poet and artist. And he started kind of going a deep dive about what are kind of synonyms for accuracy and precision. And he came across this Greek word, akribis, which is where we get our word accurate from. And so it means accurate, precise, level, exact, punctual, true, all kinds of really wonderful things. And so I thought, yeah, that's cool. And its spelling is a little bit odd. So when people look at it and they see Akribis, and it gets mispronounced and stuff. But the meaning of it was something like, that's something I can get behind, with the caveat that I'll always explain to people, we're not promising we're providing perfection, but that's the target. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to aim for that, and always try to improve and get better. So that was where that name came from, which kind of became the theme for how I've pursued business and career. Was like, what's the best that we can do, and always try to improve and get better, and also know that the best that we can do is going to be, it has to exist within parameters of what your allowable tolerances are in that particular industry. So for instance, if I'm building an instrument or a piece of furniture, tolerances are very, very, very tight. If I'm framing a house, tolerances are much looser because you're dealing with materials that have, they vary in their widths and dimensions. Right. And so you're not dealing with 30 seconds of an inch. It's oftentimes eighths and quarters. It's still really, really good. So in the midst of Akribis, you got to provide a high quality item given the tolerances that you're working within.
Sure.
So that means that there's boundaries to how far I'll take accuracy in certain areas because it's just not beneficial.
Sure.
So kind of understanding that, and then you're basically kind of trying to capitalize on efficiency.
Right.
You do as good as you need to for the task at hand. So yeah, that's where Akribis came from. We did flooring for about a year, and then I was able to step back into framing. We got approached by a builder that needed framers, and I had background in history in that, and that was kind of the goal to someday step into that. So that was a really natural step to take. And we started framing, and then Akribis Construction started to grow, and we went from Dustin and me and you, I think, for the first while, and then took on more people, and that company grew over 15 years to kind of its height. We had about 12 guys. We ended up doing a great big subdivision. It's like a 230 lot subdivision that we ended up building about 2/3 of, and so we did everything from entry level spec houses to high end custom, and so I did that subdivision and a whole bunch of other, probably 100 and something houses around within half an hour of where we live now. So that was a lot of years of building houses. I've probably had my hands on about 400 homes, something like that.
Yep.
And then so that wrapped up about 3 or 4 years ago, and in the last 3 or 4 years of that company, I was in a position where my old tool belt was getting worn out, and as someone who's kind of not afraid to try and take something new on and give a try at something, what could I build my own tool belt? Research for a few weeks to find out that no, you don't do that. Getting the machine, the leather, the hardware, all of that stuff, it's expensive, it's hard to come by. So educated myself on what it would take to make the decision that no, you don't do that. Then spent 2 years purchasing different tool belts, returning them. Eventually had one custom made in Vancouver that if I got it in hand, super disappointed in it. The person that made it's not a carpenter. I couldn't fit my hand in some of the pockets. The tools would fall right through some of the loops. Like, this doesn't work. Super discouraged. Ended up figuring I'm gonna actually try this myself.
Sure.
And then started the process of buying some old used equipment.
I just saw a picture. I don't know if it was on your Instagram or something recently that somebody posted of you working on with the first little sewing machine you had, and you're all kind of crouched over it, and just the excitement in your eyes, and you're down in your basement.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that was the first little machine there. So weird to see that compared to what it is now.
Yeah, it was bizarre. And I mean, my sewing experience was home ec in grade 8, built a pillow and a pair of boxer shorts. Yeah. So I get this first industrial walking foot machine. I'm like, now what? I don't know what I'm doing. I have no one to teach me. So I'll cut some pants apart and try and start making a pocket. Yeah. And then just slowly, sitting at a drafting table, building templates and trying to, I have a fairly decent 3D kind of conceptual mind. I can build things in my mind. So then trying to the origami of how they fold and tuck together and to create the shape that you want and make sure it's strong in the right areas. And one of the big things I took away from Mr. Gabrant, my woodshop teacher, was he always talked about in design, you're trying to strike a perfect balance between form and function. So that was always in the back of my mind. I want this thing to be elegant in its design, to be very beautiful, but be incredibly functional and strike that balance as best I can. Because there's a lot of products out there that are weighted one or the other. Sure. It's it's really, really good quality, lasts a long time, but it looks gross and is poorly executed. Or it's vain. It's it looks amazing, but it's actually doesn't serve a very good purpose. Sure. So how do you meld those together? So yeah, that was a big endeavor. And then it was just a side hustle thing I did for myself, built several tool belts for myself. Then I ended up building for my crew. And, the odd time I'd reinvest the little bit that I was making to get a better machine or something, or kind of reinvest to make things easier. And then local guys started asking for them. I'm like, oh, there's actually maybe a bit of a side hustle business. I can make some of these for people. And then that basically pushed me to a position where I was trying to sew my old sewing machine and I was breaking needles and wearing safety glasses because they're exploding in my face. And I'm like, if I'm going to sell these, I need to do a better job and have better equipment. Yeah. So that was the turning point where I'm like, if I'm actually going to do this, I need to do a better job and have better equipment. So that was the turning point to let's make this legitimate, and I'll start reinvesting to get proper machinery so that I can actually finish a tool belt and give it to somebody with a little more confidence that this is actually fairly well done. And then fast forward a few years, and now we've got a 5,000 square foot facility and about 18 people. We build and ship tool belts worldwide, between 800 to 1,000 orders a month. And shut my construction company down 3 years ago when the leather company caught up and blew past it. And then have worked myself out of all of the crucial roles with being the shipper and the cutter and the layout guy and the customer service guy and the storefront guy, and hired people into all those positions to do the management and supervision of all those things, so that I can now step in capacity to just kind of be a part of the team and help out and free myself up to get back into building, because I've had that itch and love that. And the other big kind of catalyst amongst all of this was social media, which I had nothing to do with until about a year into starting the tool belts, where I'm like going to start selling them. I need to get some exposure and kind of put word out a bit. I'll start a social media platform, and got actually my wife's cousins to help me set up Instagram originally. I don't know what this is, how this works. I'm not techie at all. And we set up a little page. And so I started posting some content. And it was a mix of me posting building content on the job site. Here's me building all these houses with all my employees and all of our practices that we had developed. And then on top of it, hey, here's the tool belt that I made to function this way for us carpenters. Here's a carpenter building tool belts for carpenters. Well, that was like a lightning strike in regards to the traction that got, because now here's carpenters poking around social media, finding one of their own, a carpenter building tool belts for that industry. Like, maybe this guy knows how they could go together. And not to say there aren't other great tool belts on the market, but here's a hands-on carpenter swinging a hammer every day who's actually building these things and refining them as he's going. So that meant that social media, it's a very slow start for anybody out of the gate. Even though by comparison to most, we still grew very fast, but it was like, we hit 100 followers. We hit 200. We hit 500. We hit 1,000. Let's do a little giveaway. And then it just like took off like crazy.
To now, to the point where when people think of tool belts, your Akribis tool belt is now in that top 2, top 3, top 4 tool belts that are known around the world. And it's only growing, which is crazy. And you now have been able to rub shoulders with almost all of those other tool belt manufacturers and have become friends with a lot of the people in that industry. So that's been a really bizarre thing, because I've had my head down in the midst of it. And then you kind of zoom out and look around like, look, how did we get here? How did this happen? So now I've freed myself up to get back on the tools a bit. So I'm doing maybe 2 projects a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. So I did a big foundation last fall with a helper. And so I kind of spend 2/3 of my time on the job site running tools and doing content there. And then 1/3 of the time in the shop, and then did another one this spring with a carriage house and a big addition and all kinds of fun timber work stuff. So, and that brings us up to kind of current time. Yeah, awesome. Cool. No, it's been really fun to kind of watch, as a brother, when you think of a lot of those older tool companies, you just thought of the tool. You didn't think of the guy that owns the company so much, right? So that's been interesting. But then to actually know the person and be like, it's my brother. But at the same time, I can totally see why you were able to do what you have done. It's just the way that your mind works. And like you said, you have that 3-dimensional brain where you can just see something. Or I would be framing something, later on, and there'd be something totally buggered up at the wall, and I couldn't figure it out. But you could just look at it, and in no time just be like, bam, that's the issue right there. We just need to fix this, and then it's good. So it's surprising, but it's not surprising at the same time. But definitely a privilege to watch it grow and see where it's come. But okay, so one thing I kind of wanted to do, and no, haven't prepped you or anything about this, but it's a bit of a get to know you. Obviously, I know you, and so I know some of this information. But for other people, we're going to talk about breakfast a little bit. I watched something, and somebody mentioned this, and I thought this is a really interesting concept, how much you can get to know someone by what they do for their breakfast routine, because it's not a planned thing for most people. It's not something that you do because your wife is there wondering, and Instagram's wondering, what does Luke eat for breakfast? It's not something like that. You just do it because, so you actually get a lot of information. So I'm going to start off with, what's your breakfast routine? Okay, well, we have to go back a little bit. Are we talking about when I was actually eating breakfast? Because I have basically been fasting until dinner time for the last couple of years. So previous to that, okay. Breakfast routine is what we're talking about? Yeah, so you're saying you don't eat breakfast right now? Yeah, I basically don't eat breakfast and lunch for the last
better part of 2 years, I kind of fast till dinner time, and I'll have a protein shake kind of midday, and that's it. But if I think of like my previous self, what I would do if I didn't worry about diet as I'm aging and like need to eat less.
I don't worry about it.
So breakfast routine. Okay. Well, let's just add breakfast into my daily routine now, because maybe that's what you're talking about, is kind of what's my morning routine.
Yeah, I guess your morning routine. But okay, let's just say, okay, we're going camping together this weekend.
Okay.
And you're like, you love a good breakfast.
Yeah,
so, I mean, there's a difference between camping breakfast and your daily routine breakfast. I want to stick to daily routine breakfast.
Okay, so when I was kind of being strategic about it, it was pretty common that I'd have a grapefruit, which I really like. And I'd cut all the segments and have the special knife and little spoon and love that with a little bit of sugar on it. Yeah. And then I love toast with a little bit of mayonnaise, slice of ham, and an over easy egg on top with some pepper, and then kind of slice the egg up on top so the yolk goes around, and that's like so good. I could eat that like if
white sourdough rye.
Ooh, I mean, the bread that we'd always have in the house, what my wife buys, is usually like a multi-grain healthy bread.
Sure.
If I could pick, it'd be sourdough.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And like if I'm asked if you had to eat one meal only for the rest of your life, my mouth is watering right now.
I know. Yeah.
That would probably be it.
Yeah.
And like I love steak, a really good steak, but man, that like toast and mayo and ham and cheese. Oh, there's cheese. What am I talking about? Yeah. So after the egg is on there and the yolk is split open, and there's a bit of pepper on it, then grate some sharp cheese on top.
Okay. So this has evolved a little bit from when we were kids, because I would say I would agree in that we could, I could eat the same thing every day. I don't get tired. I still eat a lot of eggs. But so I'm curious, when the mayo thing happened, I'm assuming that was your wife thing, because when we grew up, it was butter and some cheese kind of thing. And but at the same time, it used to be butter, then cheese, then the egg, and then the mess up the top and salt and pepper.
Yeah, and the egg was basted.
Right, Dad taught us how to baste with putting the water in it, put the thing on
Put it on,
and it really nice.
Yeah.
But
and
now
then you actually like, oh, yeah, that's what Dad always did, but I like it when the top is a little bit more fried and you just flip them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and I tried, like, this is better.
Yeah.
So I'm like, now I'm like,
so there's really multiple influences that have like it. So tell me about the mayo.
That would have been my wife, I think. My palate has exploded.
Sure.
Since meeting my wife, Tiana.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really grateful for it. So like one good example, I mean, being small town country bumpkin kids that we were, sushi, farthest thing from our mind.
Absolutely. Disgusting.
Gross. Don't even really know what it is. Don't understand it. Gross and weird.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, 15 years ago, my wife said, you want to try sushi? I'm like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to give it a try.
Yeah.
It was really, really good.
Was it good the first time?
I was kind of fascinated. I'm like, oh, this isn't terrible.
Okay.
I could, And so it's come to the point, it used to be that I would have the most basic, consistent things all the time.
Sure.
To now, if we ever go out or go anywhere, I'll ask the waiter or waitress, which can be annoying for them. I'm like, what do you guys do well?
Yeah.
I'll have anything on the menu. I'm open to all of it. There's nothing that I hate.
Okay.
And I'm like, just give me whatever you guys do really, really well.
Sure.
And I'll have anything. So I definitely attribute that to my wife, and I'm so grateful for it, because I now enjoy such a diverse range of food.
I think she was also the first person, and now I do the same thing because of her. I think it's actually I don't eat macaroni and cheese that much anymore, but putting mayonnaise in the macaroni and cheese.
We do sour cream.
Oh, sour cream.
Yeah. So that was one that she brought on too. So we did macaroni, just good old Kraft Dinner.
Yep.
Mom and Dad got the no name for a while. I'm like, you gotta stop. It's got to be Kraft Dinner.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not as good.
It's Kraft.
And
what would we have? This is actually something I don't know if we've talked about a whole lot, but what would we have with our macaroni?
Oh, it was oven melts.
Yeah.
We would have.
Which were known as Riemer melts, because our last name is Riemer, and it's actually a recipe that I think my grandma came up with.
Dad's mom. Yep.
Dad's mom. And so we would have
It's all she had left in the fridge.
Yes.
And she had to make something.
And so Luke would have his own box of Kraft Dinner. So we'd make 2 full boxes, huge glass of milk, and then we'd make these Riemer melts, which were what?
They would be, well, what they are now for me, which I think is the same then.
Yep.
Would be toast, peanut butter.
Yes.
Mayonnaise, slice of meat.
Yeah.
Cheese.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I think the original recipe had tomato.
Tomato. Sorry.
With salt and pepper, mostly pepper on it, and then cheese.
Yeah, so you get the meat on there, then the tomato. So the soggy tomato doesn't make the wet tomato doesn't make the bread soggy.
Yes.
And then,
crucial.
Yeah, a little pepper and then cheese on top. And I think they might have done bacon.
Yeah,
I think
right.
Grandma might have done bacon,
You know,
which is still
maybe
amazing.
bacon, but honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was some type of bologna or spam or something from back in the day. So
Yeah, so it sounds bizarre when you think of those things with peanut butter on it, like, but it's the most
and
savory.
mayonnaise.
Oh, it's incredible.
Like you say that to some people, and it's like, you know, but then they try it, and it's a little bit like sushi. They're like, that sounds disgusting. I'm like, try it.
Yeah.
It's pretty dang good. Let's just fast forward a bit. Okay, so now you basically don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
That's really too bad. So like, why? Like, what's the deal? So you get up and you're obviously a fit, healthy guy. You have a certain routine that you do in the morning. You're a hot tubber reader.
Well, that has evolved over the last few years for the last, I guess, 2 years now. Typically, when things are going as they should, which I say is like 80% of the time.
Sure.
My alarm goes off at 4:15, and I'm out of bed within 10 minutes. And then I drag my butt into the kitchen, and I make a coffee, and I grab my Kindle, and I crawl into the hot tub in the dark for most of the year. And then I do some reading. So there's usually a book or two that I'm working on that are kind of like, not necessarily self-help, but like psychological, spiritual development stuff, and some Bible reading. And I'll read through 2 or 3 books. I'll sit in the hot tub for anywhere from 25 minutes to 40 minutes. And I'll climb out of there, jump to the shower. Then I do a workout. So I'll go either do cardio or do lifting. And so basically all of that to say, by the time, 7 o'clock rolls around, I've got a protein shake made. I've hot tubbed, had a rinse off, had another shower after workout, and I'm heading to the job site or to the shop.
You shower twice a morning?
Yeah, because I find if I hot tub, because I'm in there every day, and that's not great for your skin.
Right.
And so if I hot tub and then I go for a run or work out and I sweat, then your skin get irritated. So I just have a quick rinse.
What do you do for your skin? Do you have any salves or any lotions?
I have a shower. Okay. So I have like it's like a 30-second rinse off, and then I'll get dressed up. And now the nice thing about that too, because I'm nearly 46.
Yeah.
When I go to work out or run,
Yeah.
my body is warm and my joints don't hurt. Versus if like my wife and a couple of her friends right now, they do some workouts at our home gym 3 days a week. And my wife will get up 10 minutes before she's starting to lift weight. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I would blow joints and feel gross. So for me, with how I'm kind of wired and what's worked, I'm like, if I get up, have a hot tub and get my body kind of limber, do a bit of stretching, then if I go for a run or a mountain bike or start to lift, my body's good for it. So it just kind of helps me kind of get lubed up.
Yeah.
My older,
totally.
creakety age.
Interesting.
That's kind of my routine now.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I mean, it's almost identical to what I do every day. So anyway, let's move on from that. We're going to talk a little bit about the small town life and what's it like to be in a small town and why it is that people choose to live here. We're going to start a little bit lighter, and then we're going to get into the deeper good stuff. But I'm curious, as far as small town life, small town living, have you found anything that has happened to you over the years, whether it's in Summerland, small town, or other places that were like absurdly strange, weird things that were just like an absolutely small town thing?
Okay. This is about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I can't remember what I was doing, but for whatever reason, I had set my wallet on the bumper of my truck.
Okay.
And forgot it there.
Sure.
And I guess this would have been like 3 years ago because it was at the leather shop.
Okay.
And I pulled out of there and turned the corner to go home or somewhere.
Yep.
And got home, go to grab my wallet. It's not there. Somewhere, within the next hour or two, my wallet's missing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I set it on my bumper. Where in the world could it have been? I go back and I'm retracing. Cause I've driven a couple places, so I'm driving all over town looking for my wallet. Thinking it came off somewhere. And like everybody's lost their wallet.
Right.
And as a business owner, it's got personal cards in there, business cards, like all my information. Like it just makes you just sick to your stomach, like having to cancel everything and redo it. And with business stuff, and I've got people that are connected to bank accounts, like accountants, like it's such a mess. So I just feel gross. And there's some money in there.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. So I can't find it. And I'm like, I'll go on to Facebook and just see if like the little Summerland page, my wife helps me look in the Summerland page, if anyone's posted anything. Sure enough, wallet found at this location. If you're missing it, get in touch with me. I get in touch, ask some questions. Like, yeah, we got it. It was down at the corner, right below my shop, with a sharp corner. It had come off my tailgate, landed on the road, and a guy was driving up, saw someone drive over it. It exploded because it's those sacred, this fancy wallet with the metal case and the lever that pops the cards out.
Yep.
Just it shatters into pieces. Money, cards, everything goes all over the road. This dude pulls over, collects it all, takes it all home, posts on Facebook. I find it on there. I go down there. He's like, yeah, oh, no worries, dude. I'm like, where, what happened? He tells me, yeah, oh, it's totally fine. No sweat. Here's all your stuff, all the cash, everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you so much. No problem at all. Like, it was like nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, of course.
That's
I do it for
absolutely
anybody.
small town.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my goodness.
That's
I am
great.
so grateful.
I know I lost my wallet and it didn't have such a lovely outcome like you did, but I remember the moment when I realized what I'd done with it. I was coming back from the coast and I was in Vancouver and I swung through a McDonald's and stopped in there, had my McDonald's and left my wallet on the tray.
Dump it in there.
Probably underneath a napkin or something. Yeah, I bet you thousands of wallets go in the dump.
I wouldn't be surprised if like 90% of people have done that very thing.
Yeah.
I bet you.
So anyway, dump it in the garbage, drive all the way back to Summerland, 4 hours. And I'm like, oh, I just realized. So what I would do, phone McDonald's right away. I was there about 4 hours ago. I had a Big Mac and maybe 2 or 3 and then I threw my wallet away in the garbage. And I was just wondering if maybe someone could go look for it. And the employee was just like, so what, you want me to go look in the garbage or in our dumpster in the back? And I'm like, I don't know. I feel stupid if I don't call.
Yeah.
Honestly, if it happened in Summerland, I wouldn't be shocked
if they did.
If someone's like, you know what? Hang on a second here.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Johnny. Yeah, small town. Yeah, it's a good place to lose a wallet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a good one. What about something that you feel that makes you a local here in Summerland? Is there something small town or something about who you are that you're like, that's pretty small town. That's kind of what proves I'm local.
We have a tourist steam locomotive train.
Right.
That runs around through our town.
Yeah.
It runs on the KVR.
Which I take for granted.
It's so ridiculous.
It is so cool.
It's so cool.
Oh,
so
I
cool.
love it.
And they also have, so it's like a legit steam locomotive with like three or four cars that it pulls passenger.
I think at least. I think it pulls like 3 or 4 passenger cars and then a couple other. Well, they're all passenger, but some are outside and some are
enclosed ones. And it changes sometimes. Usually I think it's 3 passenger cars.
And it curves all the way through the mountains around Summerland and behind people's houses, and it has this big steam. You can hear it coming. It's so cool.
Blows the whistle and all that. And there's several places through town where there's train crossing signs and stop signs.
Sure.
I don't stop any of them.
Okay.
Those stop signs are not even suggestions. They don't exist.
And
so locals,
you, of all people in Summerland, have to cross one
every day,
every single day because of where you live.
So you're like, it's not even there. You just blast through. I've never heard of someone getting a ticket for it. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't exist.
So do you slow down?
I do. As I'm coming up, I'm like, and just straight through.
And so in theory, this is just stupid of me. Like, are we supposed to stop? We're supposed to stop.
Oh, guaranteed. So I'm teaching my kids how to drive.
Okay.
And I'm like, you guys got to stop here. Like, but Dad, I know, I know, but no, you actually need to. And maybe it happened, over the 20 years being here, once or twice, where you come charging up to the stop sign, and you just do the quick check, and sure enough, there's a friggin' train right there, and you're like, holy crap, and you either blast through or hammer on the binders.
Yeah.
But that's like, again, it's totally stupid, but like the stop signs at the railroad crossings, they mean nothing. I don't have the rails.
Yeah, the arm thing that comes down. That would make sense to me.
Yeah, when the train's coming.
It would be super annoying. But it's interesting because you are, I would say, quite a rule follower. Like when it comes to most rules, you are quite a rule follower, whether it's speeding or whether there's a lot of those things. And so I don't want to say I'm pleased with you and impressed, but like, good on you.
I've lightened up in probably more ways than I should have actually. But I was been a pretty tight-laced person most of my life.
That's funny. Yeah. Weirdest, would you say, strangest kind of like maybe a rule or something that people in Summerland seem to follow almost blindly? Is there any like unwritten rules that you feel like people in Summerland or maybe small towns in general are like,
it's got a name
we all
here.
Do this?
The one I think it's got a name here.
Okay.
It's called the Summerland pullover. And it happened to me.
Okay.
Today.
It did.
Twice.
Coming down here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I live about 10 minutes from my brother's place here. On the way here, cars that are cruising, because Summerland is beautiful, orchards and mountains, and people, whether they're locals or they're people not from here, they do like 15 kilometers an hour and they kind of wander around on the road because they're looking all over the place. And those of us who live here and work here, like, I got places to go, places to be.
Yeah.
So you're like, friggin' people, tourists. And then without fail, all of a sudden you see a little like, oh crap. And they pull over and you get to rip by.
Totally.
So on the way down here, two people pulled over to the side.
Are you kind of a jerk person when you see that they're doing the wander and they're obviously tourists and they're like, eyes are looking at all the cherry blossoms? Do you give them a little like, or do you kind of pull over a little bit just so they can see you in the mirror, and then you kind of pull over and kind of try to look frustrated in your driving? No. Or are you like...
Usually I'm really chill about it. So one of the people I was really chill with today, the other person I was a little bit rammy.
Sure.
Because there was 2 or 3 cyclists on the road, and they were like not near the shoulder. They're kind of like out in the lane a bit.
Yeah.
And then there was a car driving beside them at their same speed, right smack in the middle of the road, blocking both lanes. I'm like, what is going on?
Sure.
Like, bikers shove over a little bit. Person, get in your lane. Go. What are you doing?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm like, I need to get places, and I'm kind of on their tail.
Yeah.
And I've got a big truck, so it's a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't bad, but it was like they pulled over and I gave a little bit more gas to be like, I need to get going here.
Yeah. When you're driving around town, obviously it's a small town thing. It's pretty normal for people to be waving at each other and all that kind of stuff. Would you consider yourself a waving person? Would you be a wave first or wait for them to wave first?
That depends. Again, like my truck is very noticeable in town, and it's got my company advertising all over it. And I'm known in town as a framer, so all the trades guys know me. And now through social media, we've got kind of this bit of fame. And I mean, for context, I've got the biggest tool belt following on social media.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
So we've got a ton of fans. So people that are fans of the tool belt company see my truck will give waves. Tradespeople will give waves, and then lots of friends and family will give waves. So I'm always looking when like a concrete truck is coming. I'm like, is that Curtis? I'm like, what to wave? And then, oftentimes there's a vehicle that someone has and you think it's them and then it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like an idiot, but and that maybe happens twice a month. But every time I drive anywhere, there's multiple waves every time I go anywhere at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find there's a lot of waving just as they went by because you realize they recognize them, so they do it, and so it's a lot of
yeah, totally.
It's like yeah, or some of the times you're like, hey, it's not the person I thought.
Yeah, you go right to the hair instead.
Exactly, right. So okay, what about, not that every town has a gazillion conspiracies, but I'm sure that there are. Summerland has its own. Is there any that come to mind, that ones that we actually have, or ones that you're like, I would make up a really good one? I think people would totally buy this.
Yeah. You'll know the one that I'm going to mention because we've talked about it before. And it's not specific to Summerland. It's like an area nearby that brought up this idea of a conspiracy that I wanted to start.
Oh, yes.
Now that it's going public, it'll never happen.
Okay,
but
right.
Not far from here, within 40 minutes, as you're driving out of town, there's a windmill farm.
Ah, yes.
And so I had this funny thought years ago. I'm like, that'd be a funny conspiracy to start. Like, the windmills, they're not making power. It's a government cover-up for the fact that the rotation of the earth is slowing. And the power cables that are supposedly leaving those areas to supply power, that's not what's happening. There's actually power to those big turbines.
Reverse power.
So that those are powered and they're actually helping spin the earth because the rotation is slowing down. So if you actually do the research, all of the wind farms are all facing the same direction, and they're actually helping
worldwide. Worldwide. Okay. And so we're talking not like little windmills. We're talking those massive...
The great, big, huge wind farms where they're actually producing power. Yeah. So again, that's not specific to Summerland, but it's one that came up from a nearby area.
What was that movie with Mel Gibson, Conspiracy Theory?
Yeah.
And it's similar to that, where it's like, I think he just threw a bunch of them off, not thinking that even some of them were real. Yeah. This might be one of those, where it's like, we're putting it out there and the government's actually just laughing, but like, they think it's a joke. Yeah. That's actually what we're doing with the power.
Yeah.
So again, owning a business in a small town, I mean, I think the cool thing is you've obviously been able to employ a bunch of these people that are from this town. Some of them are friends, some of them are friends of friends and family. And then some people are they come from school maybe and they apply. And so you've been able to actually have kind of this, whatever, up to almost 20 people that are able to live in this Okanagan. It's not cheap. And these people are able to, buy vehicles still and be able to have a home and pay their rent and buy food. But like, what is it that keeps you here, not so much living here, but even keeping your business here? Because again, having as much of a following and having all these people and advertisers that are saying, hey, you could be this. What's behind that? And why do you choose to keep it in a small town and more of that family-owned style?
I've always really, really valued the kind of culture that we have and what a small town kind of culture fosters. And that you can't really hide in a small town unless you're literally just going to stay home and never go outside. Whereas in a city, you can kind of you can hide in plain sight. You know, like if you're in a small town, you know, you're going to be known by a good percentage of people because it's small. And you know, there's that saying, don't piss in your own backyard. Sure. You're like, well, in a sense, if you piss in your own backyard in Summerland, everyone's looking. You know, you can't hide from anybody. It's like your reputation now is tarnished and everybody knows. It's not like in a big city where you might step out of a particular friend group. Well, now there's endless other groups of people that you can get involved with, and you can just kind of leapfrog around and start over in the same location. You can't really do that here. Right. So that does a few things. I think it kind of holds people accountable if you're somewhat of a public figure. You've got to maintain that reputation. And you've got to own stuff when you screw stuff up. Because we all have our bad days. Yeah. You know, if I've built a particular reputation, and you hear oftentimes it takes about 5 years to build a reputation as a business, and you can burn it to the ground overnight. Well, we're going to have bad days and do stupid things and make mistakes, and we're going to burn people. And if you are too proud to make those things right, well, then your reputation gets soured, and then you've got people with mixed opinions of who you are, what you stand for. And so it's good for you personally, I think, to acknowledge that, and it kind of it forces you to have some humility to be like, I need to make that right. If I'm going to maintain this reputation and be honest to people, I've got to own the things I've done wrong, make those things right. And there's accountability there, right? Which is really, really important. So the small town kind of naturally kind of demands that. And that's something for business that I really, really highly value. It's
also part of your fiber as well, you know, of who you are personally and what's super, super important to you. And so I think that does make sense that you would almost stay in a place like this. But what is it that keeps you from not, say, doing stuff overseas and having products built there and keeping the actual production of everything in the small town?
Yeah, and that it's somewhat similar. I want to make sure that we keep our priorities straight, that, you know, this business isn't about making it as big as possible, making as much money as possible, being some, you know, incredible business person. Like, no, I actually set out in the very beginning with a end goal in mind. I'm like, hypothetically, maybe someday, this is as big as I'd ever wanted to get, so that we can still maintain a genuine, honest culture. The staff know each other. It's still boutique. We are still relatable to the people that we sell to, that it's still, you know, a small shop, that there's a very small handful of people that are making the product. It means that we're also investing back into our small community. And my motivation for that is just trying to respect the people that we're building for and be a good steward of what we've been given.
Sure. Have you had the experience, because you have lived in cities before, you have framed in Edmonton and you've been in different places, as far as finding kind of like that, whether it's like a, you know, inner peace or a calm or something like that, do you find that it varies from when you're in a city to a small town? Do you feel that that's easier, harder?
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic. One thing I find is really, really interesting in regards to a small town environment, is that like anybody from a smaller center, say that you're a really high level hockey player or athlete, whether you play basketball or volleyball or hockey, and in your circle, in your sphere, you're like top tier, and you're like, oh, I'm pretty darn good. I'm one of the best around at this thing. And you kind of get excited and you're like, I'm going to go somewhere where there's more opportunity. And you go there. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not so awesome anymore. It's a bigger set. There's more talent. The pool is way bigger. Sure. And I know lots of people who are like really highly talented amongst their small circle of peers, who then go to bigger and bigger centers, who then become depressed because like, oh, I'm nothing special at all. now it's like people are way, way better than
Yeah.
I am at this. Like it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
So that has its pros and cons. And I think the small town environment has an advantage of people falsely kind of having pride in how good they are at something because they're not discouraged by everybody else around them who's better at them. Like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. I'm going to keep working on it, keep working on it. And they're naive to the reality of like, there's actually specialists and people who are professionals that are way superior to them in other areas that they're unaware of. And that was true for my situation. As I was trying to figure out leather work, there's nobody around here doing anything similar at all. So I didn't get any training or really any help. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure it out. Well, I kind of stumbled my way along and stumbled over all kinds of development production options that were like not recommended if I'd actually been trained or taught by people. Like, no, that's not what that machine's for, how you use that. Don't even bother going down that road. That's not how that works. I didn't know any better.
Sure.
Well, by doing that, I stumbled away into developing things that had really been done before and meant that our production and the process and the designs were completely original. And I worked through those difficulties to get to a place that I did actually have something that was somewhat special. And also it helps that I'm doing something that's not terribly common.
Sure.
You know, if I was doing something that was far more mainstream, it's far easier to find out what the optimal execution is. But in a small town with something that's a little bit more fringe, it's like you just kind of have this free reign to just take it as far as it'll go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
In bigger centers, I think people that are really skilled oftentimes squander that skill because they look around like, oh, there's a million people doing this just as good or better. Why should I bother pursuing it any farther?
Yeah.
So a small town kind of gives this false sense of security and then gives the safety to kind of keep doing it. And you kind of maybe get known as a person doing this one thing.
Yeah.
And, that was my situation. And as I started to get, large in social media and become aware of this huge world, my eyes were open to a whole bunch of things, like in regards to tool belts and how they're worn, that the way that we wear them here in this area and how we use them is not the norm all across the planet. Like, oh, people don't work the same way I do.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to now modify and edit my products to the greater good, but still kind of hold on to my roots and kind of manage that. But I had a foundation under it because of the small town vibe that allowed me to kind of step into that and do something unique.
As we kind of wrap up, as far as raising a family here, and what's that been like to actually raise your family from being born to graduating here and having this place to call home? What's that been like?
It's been great, and it's really nice to, for my kids and how my wife and I have raised our kids. For the most part, the kids are all like, they don't have, thoughts of like, they don't talk about, I can't wait to get out of here. Like there's been none of that. They're excited to travel and see different things, but there's nothing about Summerland, this small town, they're like, oh, I can't wait to be out of here. Like they love it here. And we talk about having, someday them having their weddings in our yard. And like, they're open to that. Sounds great. And we're at that point now where our oldest is kind of half out of the house and half back. And she's not like, can't wait to get out of the house. And we're also not like, we can't wait for you to be out of the house. Like, no, you hang around.
Sure.
It's great. And with the current reality of cost of living and housing and all that stuff, to kind of shift gears a little bit and be like, we might be approaching a time where you don't have to become an empty nester and you actually kind of exist as a family unit a little bit more because finances doesn't allow for it. So have you structured your home environment to be a safe place where you can actually stay together for longer? And not because you have kids that are unable to actually get out on their own and they're stuck in the basement on the computer all the time, but because no, this is a healthy family environment. And being in a small town out in the country and where they're known by everybody, there's not really anywhere to hide. If something kind of screwy happens, oftentimes it'll come back around because we know everybody, and so-and-so's kid saw something happen, talked to their parents, talked to a family friend, and talked to my wife or I. I'm like, oh, thanks for the heads up.
It is one of those things that people that do go, I can't wait to get out of here. How many of them actually come back after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and end up raising a family here? Like that is such a common tale, is they get out there in the real world. And it's not that it's a bad, but they have these great experiences, they learn things, but there's something about coming back here that almost grounds them. And there's something about the values and the community that they're just like, I want to raise my family in a place like that, you know? But you
also-
oftentimes don't really realize it until you're gone.
Yeah. And I've heard so many people have that exact experience where they leave here, they spend 10 years bouncing around trying to find all these different things.
Yeah.
And then they say, yeah, I was in these places, you know, sometimes for a few years in certain locations, but nothing felt like home like Summerland did. And they come back like, back home.
There is also the part of Summerland specifically being ridiculously beautiful.
Yeah.
The weather is amazing. We had 4 amazing seasons.
Yeah.
As you and I both have traveled all over the world, I never come back into the Okanagan, see the lake, see the orchards, see the vineyards, see the wineries, see all the stuff and go, well, this is lame. Got to go back to this hole.
Well, the fact that you could go skiing
Yep.
for the morning, come down, play 9 holes, and then go water skiing in the afternoon. Like, how many places can you do that?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
great.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I'm going to do what we like to call the lightning round of questions. So I haven't prepped you for any of these, but these are some fun ones. And so point of this is they're kind of yes or no questions. I don't want you to like spout off a big thing about it. So just first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Yam fries or onion rings?
Onion rings?
Okay. Do you not like yam fries?
I'm kind of like mediocre about both.
Yeah. Comedy or action?
That's impossible. Well, here's my answer.
Okay.
Terminator 2. It's got both.
Okay, good. I like it. Fist pound or high five?
High five.
Yeah, you're not a fist pounder.
I mean, I golf a lot, so there's got to be a lot of fist pounding with all the
Right.
old guys.
Yeah.
But a good high five, nothing's as good.
What's your? I remember you sharing with me your thing as far as when someone tries to do but you don't like to do it. What's your
Well,
technique
the thing is
again?
so I'm like, give me a proper traditional handshake.
Yep.
Or high five. Don't come at me here. I don't know what bro thing this is going to
Right.
become. Like, no. If someone comes here, I'm going to give you a hug, or I'm coming down at your knees to give you a handshake. Whatever whatever awkward's coming here.
Right.
With my close friends.
Yeah,
I was with close friends who come in here. I'm like, oh, great.
yeah.
Let's get awkward now.
Yeah.
And we do some, bye, see you later. I hate it.
And so if you come low, it forces their hand also to go low.
Handshake?
The only
Yep.
option is handshake.
Yeah. And there's some young guys that don't know that. So Paul's son, Will,
Yeah.
he knows. And so when he's like, Luke, and he comes out, yes. And we go, good, proper handshake. It's
Okay,
good.
love it. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan.
Yes. McDavid or Gretzky?
Ooh. I like Gretzky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an addition. What about Gretzky or Crosby?
Gretzky.
Still Gretzky. Okay, fair enough.
so.
Yep. Ray Vaughan or Mayer, as in Stevie Ray Vaughan or John Mayer?
Steve Ray Vaughan.
Yep. By a long
100%.
shot?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard too when you look at the character of the two people because, again, as much as we're talking about guitar solos and Mayer's got some crazy hands.
Yeah. There's they both have whatever, but no, Steve Ray Vaughan.
Okay, good. Hot sauce or ketchup?
Hot sauce.
Yes. If you had to walk backwards or skip everywhere you go, what do you choose?
That's really funny. Skip.
Okay.
I want to see where I'm going.
No kidding. With a tool belt on? Oh.
Yep.
Bagpipes or banjo?
Bagpipes.
Nice. I'm glad you said that.
I like bagpipes. People are like, oh, they're the worst. Like, especially if they're played decent. Like, I think they're awesome.
My best bagpipe personal live moment when we lived on one of the Gulf Islands, Thetis Island, somebody, I don't even know who it was, but this one early morning, they were playing out on the ocean over by Overbury Farm there. So I could just see this little dot of a man, but he was so good. And they just echoed across the ocean. And it was the most soothing, beautiful, like I felt like I walked out of the house and I was like standing there with William Wallace.
I do have to say though, in the last month or two, I heard someone locally nearby practicing bagpipes. I don't think there's a volume switch on those things.
Right.
It's like it is on or it's off.
Sure.
And they were learning. I was like, wow, we're being forced to experience this with you as you learn. Yeah. That was unfortunate. But I like them.
Dial-up or being on hold? Dial-up is in the old school internet. Waiting for that.
Oh, okay, waiting for that or being on hold. Depends on the old hold music.
Yeah. Which is usually pretty lame.
Yeah, Although there was one recently where actually when I finally got through, I was like, it was like a Wicked Jazz on hold. And when the person finally picked up, it was like some giant corporation. Like, just so you know, right out of the gate, that on hold music was awesome.
Yeah.
It was like a Scary Pockets, like a groove band or something.
Yeah.
Like, that was great.
Yeah.
So on hold music.
Okay. Toothpick or floss?
Toothpick.
Okay.
Although I do floss every day for the record, but yeah, toothpick is more enjoyable.
Are you a like full on just string floss, or do you have those little things, the little U shape?
I got like a little slingshot looking thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Bidet or toilet paper?
I'm a TP guy because I've never experienced the other, even though you're a huge advocate. I just haven't gone there.
Yeah. Okay. Burp or fart?
Combination.
Wow. That would, okay. I'm sure I've heard that from you in the past. Fly rod or spin caster?
Fly rod.
Shoes or sandals?
I want to say sandals. My feet are so screwed up that I'm supposed to wear shoes most of the time, but I prefer sandals.
Okay. Denzel Washington or Morgan Freeman?
Denzel.
Okay. Denzel or Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks.
Clap or cheer?
Clap.
Okay. Dig a hole or fill one in?
Fill one in. What is it? That's a stupid question. You
I
ever
don't
dug a
know.
hole?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Maybe it is a stupid question. Okay. Tree fort or snow fort?
Tree fort.
Okay. Because we've made a lot in our past, and we made some fun snow
man.
forts as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
But the tree fort, it's not gone when the season's over.
that's true. It doesn't melt. Ski or snowboard?
Oh, that's tough. I snowboard because that's what I kind of transitioned to, but I kind of wish I still skied.
Okay.
Yeah.
Batman or Wolverine?
Batman.
I think Wolverine versus Batman would be a good tilt.
Yeah.
But okay, cashews or pistachios?
Ooh, that's close. But cashews.
I've tailored these just for you, just so
Thank
you know.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Pass or shoot?
Shoot.
Caesar or ranch?
Caesar.
Okay. Hike in or 4x4?
Shoot,
I know
really
we have
hard.
a 4x4 hike combo, but you can't.
I can't. My age, maybe. Oh man, that's terrible.
I know if you say my age, I should probably just for. You're like, no, I'm fit and healthy.
Yeah,
I
hike.
Pie or cake?
Pie.
Okay. Board game or video game?
Board.
Arcade or console?
Arcade.
Okay. Straw, paper or plastic?
Plastic.
Money, paper or plastic?
Paper.
Yes, thank you. I've had a couple people say plastic.
No.
How?
What are you talking about?
And I said this already. You find $10 in your pocket. You're like, yes. You don't find a credit card in your pocket and be like, yeah. Okay. Stanley Cup or green coat? Green coat or green jacket? What did they say?
jacket.
Green jacket. Sorry to all your golfers.
Stanley Cup because it's not so isolated to one person's team, more people.
Yeah.
Whereas golf it's pretty selfish, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And isn't the green jacket specific to a Masters at a certain spot or something?
Particular tournament, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is you and me fighting when we're kids. Kick or punch?
Punch.
Okay. Slap or scratch?
Slap. Now, are we talking about what I would do or what you would do?
I don't know.
I would punch and I would slap before I would kick or scratch.
Okay. Pinch or poke?
Poke.
Okay. Hair pull or bite?
Those are both crap. Hair pull. Biting just sounds so awful.
We'll end it there. I love the thought of you pulling someone's hair or my hair for some reason. But anyways, thank you so much for doing this. Absolute pleasure. And it's super fun just to be able to have a conversation and reminisce and fun to be in this community with you, growing old. And pretty soon we'll be hitting up the local bakery, old decrepit, having our coffees and solving the world's problems. Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Be sure to go check out Luke on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or his website. And then make sure that you guys come back here and check to see if we have more episodes for you on Small Town Podcast.